Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Every day he is truly hustling. Joining me on the Motor City Sports Rant is Jason Jarvi, coming right from the Fantasy Football Sideline Show. You heard it earlier this morning, 8 to 10 a.m., Detroit Sports 105.1. It was a great episode, and I listened, got some great fantasy football advice, and now you're here on the Periscope recording an episode of the Motor City Sports Rant podcast. Welcome, and thanks everyone for downloading another episode of this podcast. What's up, Jason? What's going on?
Not much, dude. I really appreciate having moved the show to Sunday. We couldn't make it happen on Saturday. I know you're celebrating an anniversary. What anniversary is it?
I've been married 5 years. August 28th, I got to take some time off, put the phone down, went downtown. I celebrated with my wife. She was very happy. It was just great to walk around downtown, see the sights. I got to take some pictures on the new M1 rail. It's very developing, and it was actually a great time. I really enjoyed it over Friday, Saturday.
Did you see the gigantic hole in the road on Woodward?
No, I did not. Where's that?
Where the new Red Wings arena is coming down.
Oh no, I wasn't down there.
It's a big hole in the road, essentially.
Oh, gotcha. No, I was by the Westin Book Cadillac. It's where I stayed.
That's a very nice hotel. I've stayed there before. I drank heavily at the bar in that hotel. It got a little crazy. But congrats on that. 5 years. You don't see that too often nowadays.
No, I love my wife. We had a great time, and without her and the support, I wouldn't be here. I'm very happy, and you have to do those kind of things. And we had a great time, and the experience was totally well worth it. The grandmoms watched the kids. Everything went flawless. Everything went absolutely perfect, and I'm loving it. Get a chance to record this podcast today talking about our Lions, our Tigers. College football is about to kick off, so we got a lot to get to. But first, before we get into all the great sports, you're doing great things over there at Detroit Sports 105.1. Mm-hmm. You just came here after hosting the Fantasy Football Show. Now, I heard it on the show earlier today. Next week, live in front of an audience out there in Royal Oak at the Arts, Beats, and Eats Festival. You ever done a live show? How you feeling about it? You're nervous? Because I know you're kind of a guy that's kind of reserved, not too much out there. You're not thrilled that we record this all the time with the Periscope. But
I'm not Vinny, man.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm sure people have noticed by now that we haven't heard Vinny protest about having the Periscope on. He is not with us today. He's busy, and we won't be together next week either because I have my fantasy draft.
Oh,
so
yes.
We'll have to see. I think some changes might be coming in the lineup and how we record these episodes because Vinny's a Lions fan. I'm a Lions fan. We want to react immediately to these games. So look out for any update on that. On to the fantasy show, the live show that we have coming up next week. It'll be Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I graduated Specs Howard back in January. This is all new to me, man. So
yeah, it's going to be great. You and Dennis are going to be out there with Theo Gridiron Spite. You're going to be in front of an audience. I may go out there just to support you. I was like, man, would it be weird if I got like a big Jason Jarvi fat head, those big ones you see on Channel 7 in the stand, and just waved it? Dennis would be like, can you get this guy out of here? Get this guy out of here.
After I graduated, I kind of had an idea that I wanted to play a background, like supporting role, being a producer, and for the most part, that's kind of where I'm going. But when I started doing the podcast, I knew that it would take some time to really, build my, on-air presence, and I was really kind of, not forced, but it was, put upon me that I'm essentially the co-host on the Fantasy Sideline Show, and I'm grateful for everything, and it's really opened my eyes to more opportunities. And I know that I don't have to just be a background guy, that I do have the ability to be that on-air personality.
Of course you do. And the great thing today, you guys talked about the podcast a lot. You read my text, my tweet. It was all good.
We did. We gave Dennis. He's all about helping promote you. He gave the shout out.
Yeah, it was all good. That was funny though. He was like, "Do you talk bad about me on the show?" So we were gonna book Dennis Farrell, but we got busy. So
right. Yeah, I'm sure that'll play right into him.
That was good stuff. So let's get into this podcast. We got a lot to get into. So if you're following us on Periscope, thank you very much. I am seeing what the questions will be. I will definitely peek down and potentially answer some questions. We had a follower say that he also graduated Specs in 2014, so good stuff. People are following. So represent Specs Howard.
I do want to give a big thank you to the doc right now. Normally it would be me and Vinny and us driving the show. It's been a busy time, and I want to thank the doc for driving the show. I'm still giving it my all. I'm gonna give you my hard-earned, my honest opinions, but Doc, he's got all the notes. He's got his 6 phones. So
no, I want to help you guys out. You guys, you're doing a great. I got to give you credit. You're doing so many different things. You come in here, give us your time, 2 hours a week to do your Fantasy Nerds podcast, to do this Motor City Sports Rant podcast. So anytime that I can help out, I'll do anything I can. Like I said, by tweeting, texting, promoting your guys' show, it's good stuff. And I have no problem. You know me. You turn on the microphone, I'll start talking. There's no problem on my end.
You are the doc.
Yes, sir. All right. 3rd preseason game. I was at the casino, MGM, and I was like, man, what a fun environment to watch a game, because, my wife, she likes to play the slots. And I'm like, honey, that's a sucker's bet. You're not going to win. But she did get a little bit lucky in that she won a little bit, and so it extended her playing time. So I'm sitting there walking around, and I'm more of a poker player. I don't play the slots. I don't like throwing out I don't like playing blackjack. I'm not a dice guy. Strictly no limit hold'em poker. I like to play. I feel like I have a chance to win.
No, that's wrong. You don't have a chance anywhere in the casino.
Really?
No, dude. It's my wife, she's another one who she loves the slots too. And I think she's probably evened out or won more money than I ever have in the casino.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's what everyone remembers is, oh yeah, I won like $900 on a slot machine. Yeah, but how much money did you put in? How many losing sessions did you have beforehand? Come on, it's a losing bet. How do you think all the casinos are built? On the slot machines. That's why the majority of the floor is filled with slots. And now there's so many electronic ones. Oh my gosh, there's too many to count. But I was watching the game, both games at the bar. It was great. The Tigers were, horrific. They were playing bad. They were already down 5-1 at that point. So I'm like, forget it. The Tigers, let's put them on the back burner. Let me focus on the Lions. And
the riveting Lions versus Jaguars.
It was riveting because the first thing you noticed was, what the hell happened to the starting defense? Now, I know I was kind of, real jumpy early on. I was tweeting like, can the defense show up? Can the defense show up? But all the great followers on Twitter, on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, were like, whoa, Doc, chill out. 4 starters didn't play. Haloti Ngata, Jason Jones, Ziggy Ansah, DeAndre Levy weren't there. But the first thing that you noticed was Jacksonville scored 14 quick points. Blake Bortles kind of handled the Lions defense pretty quickly early on. That was the first thing you noticed.
I'm not concerned about that. It's preseason, and I feel the preseason is really it's being phased out. I don't think it's not as big of a telltale sign of how teams are going to do nowadays. I think, regardless, first through the 4th preseason game, you're not getting the actual offense or the actual defense. I think they're going to throw so many different things come week 1. It's going to look like an entirely different team. We haven't seen Calvin Johnson at all in the preseason. And like you said, we essentially had none of our starters on the defensive line. When you're relying on guys like Jermel Cudjoe and Jarrell Worthy, you're not going to get a really accurate representation.
Yeah, look at the numbers here. The Lions gave up 254 yards in the first half. Blake Bortles was 8 out of 9 on 3rd down. We couldn't get off the field on 3rd down, and Blake Bortles looked pretty effective. He looked like he was kind of reading the defense well, making good throws, and he got him off to an early 14-0 lead. We got a question on our Periscope. They said that, do you think that Blake Bortles could potentially be a good quarterback?
I think he can. It's all there. He was a very high draft pick, and they actually don't have a bad offense. They have Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson, Marquise Lee as their wide receivers. They've finally gotten out from under the Justin Blackmon just debacle. Julius Thomas, I don't think he's seen the preseason yet, and he's a pretty solid, he's a very solid tight end. TJ Yeldon, I'm very high on him. I've been high on him since Alabama. I think he could develop into a very nice every down running back.
Okay, so you're saying the early start to that game and knowing that, wow, we got down quick, 14-0, didn't kind of rattle you, knowing that, you're looking at some of the guys that did make some key mistakes that we count on. Glover Quinn kind of made some mistakes in coverage. The defense wasn't getting any effective pass rush. And if you, in football, if you don't get a solid pass rush, then any quarterback out there, even the likes of Kirk Cousins and the lower tier quarterbacks, can pick you apart. So yes, I understand you're not as concerned, but it was kind of eye-opening that Blake Bortles could, early on in that game, just stand there and just do whatever he wanted.
The only thing that it would concern me is that maybe our defensive line depth isn't as deep as we think it is. Yeah, we have, I think, Jason Jones, Tyron Walker, Haloti Ngata, Ziggy Ansah. I think those are very solid starters. Karan Reed, I think he's going to be a pretty good piece. Devin Taylor. I think it's these other guys that are going to be the question. You would have liked to see Jarrell Worthy or Jamel Cudjoe or really any of those other guys perform and stop. It's a rookie running back. And even if did Denard trot out there for the first quarter at all?
Yeah, he was there. He was out there.
You would like to see the depth at defensive line stop those guys. I'd understand if we're going up against Jamal Charles or even like a LeGarrette Blount, but we're talking about rookies and Denard Robinson, who's a wisp of a human being.
Freddie the Pizza Man chimes in on Periscope. He's predicting
What's up, Freddie?
He's predicting a sophomore slump for both Bridgewater and Bortles. I think Bridgewater has a chance now that he's got AP back to really have some success. He really stood out last year as a quarterback that was young and up and coming. So if one of the two is going to have a sophomore slump, it would be Bortles. But I'm confident in the fact that Bridgewater can have success this year for Minnesota. Now that he's got a little bit more of a weapon in a running game. He's got the skills to be successful.
Well, I'm not sure if you can really call what Bortles is going to have a sophomore slump because he didn't have a really great year in last year. I think, obviously Bridgewater has a better chance to succeed because all we've been hearing is they have the offense in place now. Bridgewater, he had a pretty good year last year. He didn't have the weapons. Now he's got Mike Wallace. He's got another year of Jairus Wright and Charles Johnson, I think or George Johnson, one of those Johnsons, whatever. Adrian Peterson's back. Kyle Rudolph, hopefully he can be healthy. He has all the weapons there. It's kind of like Stafford. If he has all the weapons, he could be good. But Blake Bortles, I think that's interesting there.
On the scale of how impressed were you with his performance versus the Lions? He had great numbers. I mean, great numbers. He led them down the field quickly. 2 touchdown drives, and the third drive stalled, getting within the 5-yard line because they passed it on 3rd and 4th down. He played pretty good against the Lions defense.
It's not our first team defense though. That's what I'll go at. And a QB, he's going to be the starter regardless. It's not matter. It doesn't really matter. Other guys that impressed me in preseason that I saw that impressed me more, Jeremy Maclin on Kansas City. I think you were really wondering about how they were doing. Maclin impressed me. Blake Bortles, you're going to be the starter regardless. You're not losing your job. You didn't really impress me. Prove it on the field. That's what I'd say.
Now, what I like with the Lions is when they struggle in a game in a certain area, the next game they've come back and have done well. Last week versus Washington, they gave up 179 rushing yards. So this week they kind of made it a point to kind of focus on the rushing part of the defense, and they only gave up 68 yards versus Jacksonville. Now, granted, the talent at running back for Jacksonville isn't all that great. Not
Alfred Morris and Matt Jones, and versus T.J. Yeldon, who I think will be good, and Denard Robinson and Storm Johnson, a guy whose name is Storm. He shouldn't be in the league.
No, so they did well there. So I do believe that they'll look at the film and they'll correct it by week 1 versus San Diego. But some great points, some news and notes that came out of the game on the positive side is, Zach Zenner continues to impress. 85 yards on 8 carries, is able to find the hole, is making some key plays, and all around town people are saying, this guy deserves to make the team. This guy, Zach Zenner, an undrafted free agent addition to this Detroit Lions roster, he deserves to be on the team. It's quite fascinating. It's not too often that you get to see a guy kind of come from, obscurity. He had success in college for sure, but to come from obscurity and potentially make the Detroit Lions, who have struggled potentially to get running backs and cultivate them to have success.
I think Zach Zenner is a great story, and if it was my choice, I would put him on the team, definitely. I think it's going to be interesting though to find where he fits, in the offense or special teams, and who are they going to cut to make a room for him. We talked a little bit on the Fantasy Sideline Show about it, that we already have Joik Bell, Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick. There's 3 running backs right there. They might be keeping 2 fullbacks, and then you got George Wynn, who I know that they're high on, and Zach Zenner. I really think Zenner is going to be kept, and I think the spot where you'll most likely see them cut back would be the quarterback position. Everyone's been so high on Kellen Moore this offseason, but then come the preseason games, he just looked horrible. I think they're probably either going to cut or put Kellen Moore on the practice squad and only carry 2 quarterbacks.
And the other talking point that we really should appreciate and really talk about is Matthew Stafford has impressed greatly this preseason. He is completing 76% of his passes, no turnovers with 3 touchdowns, and he's going into the 4th preseason game. He's going into the 4th preseason game with a 156.3 passer rating. And for a guy that gets a lot of slack around town for not having that playoff win, for not having great consistent playoff success, you got to give him credit. He's really shined. And when they were down 14-0, boom, great 62-yard pass to Golden Tate. He led him perfectly. The ball was in the air for a good 50 yards. He kind of threw him open, and Golden Tate just walked into the end zone. It was such a great play. It was good to see. I've been impressed with Matthew Stafford this preseason, and it's good to see because he's the guy that everyone's looking at. He's the guy that everyone is talking about. And for what he's done this preseason, kudos. And I know that the defenses are kind of not, they use the term vanilla, but he is executing the plays. And when he had this kind of success back in 2011, we saw 5,000 yards plus and over 38 to 40 touchdowns.
Now I know most people would probably expect me to come out here and just lather up the butter for Matt Stafford. But after I just talked about Blake Bortles and how I didn't really feel that the preseason mattered, I'm going to say the same thing for Matt Stafford. It's the preseason.
You're like the Xanax of the program. Why are you all chilled out? Be excited. You got to, I know it's the preseason, but they are out there playing. It could be worse. Look what RG3, did I hear correctly, lost his job.
He did.
Kirk Cousins, Go State. Kirk Cousins is now the starter at Washington based on how horrid RG3 looked. Stafford looks good, and I believe in the fact that he's going to be successful this year. I think he's going to, he's listened to all the hate. He's listened to everybody talk about how ineffective he is, and he's done great. He's, no turnovers, 76% completions. Now, I know he's not going to carry that over into the season, but if he gets over 60%, hey, we're in business.
Now, I'm not saying he's not going to have a good year because I'm all behind the Matthew Stafford bandwagon. I drive the train for Matthew Stafford.
Choo-choo.
So I'm just not, it doesn't move the needle for me. If it moves the needle, did it move the needle when we went 4-0 in the preseason? And then we followed that up with an 0-16 season? And I hate that I just referenced the past of the Lions because it's not what it should be about. Looking at the future, the preseason does not matter. Until we get into games, that's when I'll start judging Matt Stafford.
Okay, so you're...
Sorry, Matthew Stafford. I know he likes Matthew.
Oh, he does. Okay, so you're taking the wait-and-see approach. Let's see how they do Sunday, September 13th versus San Diego at 4 o'clock. But I think he's going to come out there and play well. Remember, he's doing all this without Calvin Johnson. And this preseason has kind of lent the opinion that Adam and I talked about last year and kind of got some flack. I think that Golden Tate is a legitimate number one on this team. Now, obviously, Calvin Johnson is a great weapon, but if needed, if something were to happen to Calvin Johnson, then I'm confident that Golden Tate can step in there and get great production. And the key for Stafford is going to be, you got these 2 great weapons. You better incorporate them better than he did last year. Because when Calvin Johnson went out, Golden Tate was getting touchdowns, and you're like, wow, that game versus Atlanta was nice. He played great. He was getting targeted. He was getting yards. He was an effective fantasy guy. Then Calvin comes back, and it was like Golden Tate's numbers dwindled. And everyone kept saying, throw the ball more to Golden, throw it more to Golden. Why are you keep targeting Calvin? And so I just think that he needs, and one of his strengths this year will need to be making sure you effectively balance, who you're throwing the ball to. And he better start looking to Golden Tate because he's a deep threat. He's a yak machine, as they say, a guy that can make plays. And he's been a great addition to the team.
You hit the nail right on the head. And this isn't just last year. Golden Tate came in. He provided for this team. And then Calvin comes back, and it's like we hardly see him at all. It's something that we've seen for years with numerous Lions quarterbacks. Not on the level with Calvin Johnson because, Stafford right now, he wants to throw to Calvin Johnson because he's one of the best receivers in the league. He's going to catch the ball for you. You go back to the John Kitna days when he got comfortable with guys like Sean McDonald and Mike Furry. Our quarterbacks have like a fascination, and maybe it's the play calling. I don't know, because maybe there's not enough options. Maybe they're not giving them enough reads. Matt Stafford needs to be able to progress between Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate. If he's not doing that, then all this hype that you're talking about Matt Stafford being awesome in the preseason, I'd wipe it all away. Because if you're not looking at both of those guys, you're not a very good quarterback.
Now, an interesting question from Freddie the Pizza Man. I just saw it briefly, and I think I wrote it down quickly enough, but he presents an interesting sports topic, a sports debate. He says, what is more likely to happen first? Stafford, 30 touchdown passes, Abdullah, 800 rushing yards, or Ebron, 45 catches? Which one is more likely to happen first?
This season?
This season. I don't think Abdullah is going to get around 800. I think that's a little bit of a stretch because of the fact that he's going to be mixing, he's going to be in there with Joique Bell, and Theo Riddick's going to get some touches. So I think that one is eliminated. I don't know. Ebron and Stafford is pretty close. Stafford, in my opinion, is going to get around 35 touchdowns this year. So I think Stafford and on Ebron, I've yet to see the consistency in the regular season. So when I see that, I can honestly say maybe then he'll get over 40 catches. He's going to be targeted, but I can't say it yet. So Freddie, my guess would be Stafford, 30 touchdowns first.
If you look at it logically, I would definitely go Stafford because I think he's shown that he can get 30 touchdowns in a season. And, he had how many touchdowns in that gigantic year? Was it 42? So he's proven he can get 30 touchdowns. Amir Abdullah, it's going to be tough, especially if Bell is healthy, to get 800 yards, unless he just shows far and above that he should be the number one back. Ebron, that's the interesting one. I think it might actually be Ebron getting 45 catches because from what everybody said is that he's gotten better. Ebron, he sounds like a smarter player right now. If he has made that leap, I think Ebron getting 45 catches might actually be
reasonable. It's reasonable.
It might actually come sooner than Matt Stafford getting 30 touchdowns.
Now, you've seen it now in fantasy, and you guys have talked about it. Amir Abdullah's stock has shot way up there. People are drafting him in fantasy in the 3rd and 4th rounds when everyone is like, who's an expert, and Dennis included, thinks that potentially he should be drafted in like the 7th to 9th rounds. Now, around town, people are saying, he's got home run speed. He's got the ability to have that shiftiness in those first 2 games that we saw. He's been compared by Todd Bowles as being Barry Sanders.
Todd Bowles is crazy.
So a guy like that, if Joique Bell is healthy, you give him a spot to potentially earn the number 1 job. Because look what's going to happen. The defenses are going to dictate what Stafford's going to do, and I think he's going to be able to kind of make that choice. But you're going to need a guy that's going to be able to break tackles should they stack 8 in the box. Joique Bell, prototypically, the way he plays and what we've seen, he's really a prototype number 2, a guy that you can bring in to kind of spell a shifty true number 1. You think Amir Abdullah would be successful if he were to be named number 1? I don't think he's going to be, just based on the fact that, Caldwell tends to be conservative, and he's going to let Joique Bell lose the job. I don't think he's going to potentially name Abdullah to start right away. But if he were, I think he'd have some success. He's got some talent, and he's made some plays in the preseason.
Definitely. He has all the stuff. He has all the moves to be a number 1 running back. But you're right. It's Joique Bell's job to lose. I really hope that we do see Caldwell giving equal shots to both guys and and I also hope that he rides the hot hand that, we're both Michigan State fans. And I remember when it was Keith Nichol and Kirk Cousins, they were going between them. When Keith Nichol was out there, it was horrible. And the guy, he's a good guy. He called in the other day, but that you knew Kirk Cousins was that starting quarterback. So Amir Abdullah, Joique Bell, whoever is the starting number one running back, they better be the ones starting.
Yeah, and what we want to see, though, we do definitely need to see above 3 yards per carry per attempt. Last year, the Lions struggled so much on first and second down because every time they'd run the ball, 2 yards, 1 yard, negative play, 3-4 yards. You do need some home run plays and guys that can break tackles and make those plays. Amir Abdullah has that chance, and if he's given that chance in the screen game, if he's given that chance early on in the season to maybe be that 1A type guy, hopefully he takes advantage of it. And with that combination, if the running game can be successful, Jason, and the offense can get into that top 10 status, put up 30 points a game, look out. The Lions can do some damage with the talent they have on defense. Now, they definitely need to shore up a lot of different things in terms of the pass rush. They need to shore up now because it's on film. The Jacksonville Jaguars kind of exposed them in terms of the tight ends got 12 catches for 145 yards. So there was a lot of breakdowns in the secondary covering the tight ends, and so that's exposed.
I think having DeAndre Levy back, that's going to change a lot of stuff, though.
Yeah.
And back to the running back real quick. I don't want to discredit Joique Bell because I think a big thing that's going to help the run game this year is our offensive line. We have improvements at Manny Ramirez and Laken Tomlinson. I think they're going to be integral parts. And if they get good blocking, Joique Bell could be a good rusher.
He said his goal is to get 1,200 yards. Is that achievable?
It's
tough.
It's achievable. It's going to be tough because I think as the offensive line is helping him, it's also going to help Amir Abdullah. It's not like they're only going to block for Joique Bell and let Amir Abdullah just get crushed. No, if it's good blocking, it's going to be good blocking for both of them, and they really should be splitting time.
Yeah, no, the Lions offense is going to be something that I kind of am, looking to stabilize this team. The defense is going to go through a little bit of a transition because you can't lose a guy like Ndamukong Suh and think everything's going to be great and everything's just going to continue. There's going to be a drop-off in the pass rush. Whatever that may be is something that I think the offense can potentially make up. You get an offense that can score quickly. Look, yesterday I was flipping out. We were down 14-0. Boom, boom. We got 2 touchdowns back just like that. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not used to seeing that. I thought the game was going to go into a tailspin the other way. I thought that the Lions were going to go and this is one of those typical Lions games where we're going to get blown out.
Kind of like that Philadelphia Packer game.
Yeah, exactly. And no, Stafford comes right back, and they weren't conservative. 62-yard touchdown. The biggest thing that people walked away from last year was, dang, you guys shackled Stafford. Why? And maybe that was still part of the learning curve with the system. But if this team can have a good balance of taking deep threats with the big two, and then you got Joique Bell and Amir Abdullah handling the mid-range stuff, the 5 to 10 yard dink and dunk, as they say in the West Coast offense, then you got a potentially great offense. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. That's why San Diego is a perfect game to open the season on the road. Weather shouldn't be an issue. We're going to get a chance to see what this offense can do, and I'm so excited. September 13th, it's taking forever, man.
Here's something I want your opinion on. We saw it happen in this last preseason game. We finally missed an extra point. And I saw that, and I'm just like, oh no, this is not good. This is exactly how we're going to lose a game.
My goodness. Now, the Jock in the Doc and Jock podcast that comes out every Thursday, every game that has been played in the preseason, he's brought up this guy. Starts with a B. I forget his name off the head.
Kyle Brinza.
He's like, man, he's been impressed with him. Man, look at his foot. He's bombing field goals left and right. And he actually sent a tweet to me at Detroit Podcast. He's like, Matt Prater or Brinza? And I'm like, well, in that situation, I tend to go with experience, but Prater missed an extra point. Are you serious? But I think it's going to be tough for Brinza to make the team. Prater's got the experience. He's got the contract. And he has decent numbers. When you go back and look at it, he's got decent numbers percentage-wise on field goals over 40 yards and field goals over 50. He's got good numbers. So Prater's the guy. He's going to be on the team because he's made the kicks in the regular season. So But Brinza's impressed. But that extra point miss was horrid, and I don't like it. It looks stupid.
How dumb are they though? It's the most ridiculous thing I've seen.
It's stupid, and it's not that I was okay with the fact that it was pushed back a few yards, but to move it to the left hash looks stupid.
I think that's a personal preference per team. I think that's where Prater wants it because I've seen other teams kick from the dead center.
Okay, then I just think that for Prater, I don't like the aesthetics of that look, and I don't like the fact that the NFL changed it. If you want to just change it, just make the touchdown worth 7. You either go for 2, you get 8, or let it go because
I think
just
they moved it back. They moved it back too much.
Yeah, it's silly, but it adds. Now, the reason why they did this was it's to add a little bit of drama potentially to the extra point because it just became routine in that, 99% of the extra points were being made and it just became kind of stale. But if you really want to help the game, you just potentially just remove the extra point in general. Guys aren't really colliding into each other that much. You don't see that many blocks on the field goal. So if you want to make changes, just remove it and make the touchdown worth 7. And if you want to go for 2, allow yourself to go for it. But yeah, it looks dumb. It was a change that did not need to take place. It's again an example, like Vinny said, of the league just making decisions that are really ridiculous just to make a decision.
I think it's going to make some fans very, very angry. And I can speak for all NFL fans, but for Lions fans in particular, it's gonna if we happen to lose this year because of this. It's going to go down. It's going to be, same old Lions. It's another way that the Lions found a way to lose.
Well, Jason, let me share a story with you. And the reason why you get a sense of, oh, man, Doc's a little bit jaded with the Lions. Man, they're down already. He's already flipping out on Twitter. I was a former Detroit Lions season ticket holder for years, right around the time when Ford Field opened and then the Millen regime came in. Me and a buddy had season tickets, and they were decently priced, around like $50 to $55 a ticket. So we're excited. It's a great game. Good stuff versus Minnesota. Back and forth. And Minnesota takes the lead late in the game. And we're like, oh, man, by that time, my boy Kenny and I were just like, yeah, forget it. We're not going to win. But miraculously, they come back. And boom, they tie the game. The crowd's going wild. Everything's going great. And this is Mariucci, I believe, was coaching. Crowd's going wild. Everything's going great. We're like, yes. I think we were all still high-fiving. We were all still celebrating. And all of a sudden you hear, I'll never forget that. It was just a big groan of a stadium going, oh, no. The Lions, I think it was Muehlbach, botched the snap. And the extra point was missed for us to lose the game, to miss the extra point. We would have tied the game. We botched the extra point. And that right there was basically the crack in the beginning of me and my boy going, really? Seriously? All that energy we put to come back in the game, all that energy, we were all celebrating, and the easy play with Jason Hansen kicked the extra point, and we missed it. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the universal 60,000, or was it, how many people does Ford Field hold? 45 or 65 now?
65,
yep. 65,000 people. Just going, oh, and the curse words walking out. I'll never forget the anger. There were a lot of games that were like that, but that one sticks in my mind. The botched extra point versus Minnesota, I'll never forget it. And it just goes to show you, some teams made it more difficult, but the league changing the extra point was just horrid.
I think we need to have a Detroit Sports Podcast special. We can get the two of us. We get Vinny. We bring in the Jock, and we talk about the worst Lions losses. Oh. We could fill up an entire hour.
The worst
if
losses?
Not more. The worst losses, how it makes you feel. And I think it might actually be
like a group therapy?
Kind of like a Festivus. And it's an errands of grievances.
Okay, maybe potentially we'll set it up.
Maybe we can get that going within the first couple weeks of the season. Okay. Because I think there is a lot of positivity. There should be a lot of positivity going into this Lions season.
And then going forward, people are now rehashing the Dallas game. I'm just now starting to get over the fact that we got screwed by the NFL in the Dallas game. And then you got national reporters saying, oh, yeah, the Lions definitely should have won versus Dallas. That was a travesty. Let's let it go. Let's let it go at least till the second or third week in the season. Maybe we can start bringing that game back up. How we were screwed by the National Football League on a call that everyone knew should have been pass interference. They called it. And then they picked it back up? Ridiculous. That's unheard of. Oh, I brought it back up. Let's move on.
Let's move on, yes.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back, and we got to maybe I might have to go off on a Detroit Tigers and pay attention on Periscope. I'm going to be heated. That game, Saturday versus Toronto, horrid. Absolute embarrassment on two fronts. the manager and a certain player. We'll talk about that next. A big mistake that was made in the Tigers' Saturday loss versus the Toronto Blue Jays. Stay with us. DetroitSportsPodcast.com, the Motor City Sports Rant. Doc here for DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the hub of our project, the hub of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. It's where we host all the podcasts. We're running 4 podcast shows a week, and sometimes we do a one-on-one special with some of the personalities, some of the journalists in town. So check us out, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's the free and easy way to help Jason and I continue to keep the mics on, keep the lights on here in the studio, keep the selfie stick going with the Periscope, keeps everything going by visiting our website. If you like what you hear, just go tell a friend, hey, there's these 2 guys and these 4 shows that come out every single week dedicated to Detroit sports and fantasy football. So thank you for everyone out there that's been supporting us. Visit our website, free and easy, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. And now back to Jason Jarvi and the Doc on the Motor City Sports Rant.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.
All right, Jason. When Adam and I were talking about the Tigers on the last podcast, we looked at the schedule and we were like, oh, we got some tough games coming up. We got a series versus Toronto. We got a series versus Kansas City to end August and early September. And I'm like, oh, based on that, I'd only give us 1, maybe 0 wins in the next 5 games. And then the first game versus Toronto, it was, slow start. Boyd gave up 5 runs to take his record to 0-3 at the Rogers Center. Gave up 5 runs, 7 hits, and 3 walks. It was a terrible performance. We lost 5-3. Then Saturday's game comes along. It's a 1 o'clock game in Toronto. I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. You don't see that too often. And Toronto's running these afternoon games, and the Tigers absolutely failed to show up on any front. From the pitcher, Buck Farmer, who I don't know why. What are they seeing in him to continue to trot him out there? Over the course of the last 2 years, you know how many wins he's got?
0.
As many as you and I have.
Ew.
0 wins.
Hey, I could be in the major leagues.
Yeah. And this is the guy that, we called Buck Farmer. Oh, we sent him back down. Oh, we're throwing him in the bullpen. And he's been ineffective in every scenario that they've tried to put him in. What is going on with the Tigers, with Buck Farmer? He's ineffective. He shouldn't be out there. So you're getting shelled. And Edwin Encarnacion basically made a career day of himself. 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. Yes, Brett Ausmus, the one thing he said correctly yesterday was it was a complete embarrassment. Highlighted by, in the 4th inning, Gose is out there. And I don't know if you ever watch a game, the shortstop, Kinsler or Jose Iglesias, always puts his hand up. 1 out, 2 outs. What are you paying attention to? So the play happens, he makes the catch, and starts trotting into the dugout. Meanwhile, the Toronto guy's looking like, what the hell, from second base? Trots to third and then sees Gose trotting along like a fool and runs home. So does Gose get pulled from the game? Does Gose get scolded? Does Gose get any kind of repercussions for the stupidest play that you can make in baseball, not knowing how many outs there are? Does anything happen to him? No. And then in the press conference, Brad Ausmus is like, yeah, those kind of things happen. I'm not going to sit here and rip them. What else are you going to do? These are grown men. If we make mistakes like that, if you were to come in here and do something absolutely abhorrent, I would at least, say first, listen, I respect Gose. He's a major league player, but that play was absolute bullshit. That play is horrible. How do you lose count of how many outs there are? All you got to do is look to the infield. They always flash how many outs there are. How do you lose track? That means these guys have checked out mentally. And it's a reflection of what's going on with Brad Ausmus. He is absolutely horrid. A game like that, what are you waiting for, Avila? What are you waiting for? You waiting for the end of the season to kind of evaluate everybody? The season's done. The players have checked out. They're mailing it in. And Brad Ausmus is going to continue to let this team fail and play like that. It's an embarrassment. Okay, how do you have the right as a manager to go out there and say that your team is an embarrassment? 15-1? What the hell? 15-1. And Tulowitzki, Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion are like having the time of their lives. They're making hundreds of $1 million off the Tigers. It's horrible. You make mistakes. These are pro athletes. I know everyone's all sensitive and you can't talk to athletes anymore, but his ass should have been pulled. It was a disgrace. And how much more of this do we got to take? It's not right. Ausmus has to go. He's been ineffective. That should have been it. Press conference, they should have had their 19th closed-door meeting for the season and been like, okay, it's done. They're not playing for him. What are you seeing? I don't see nothing. I know Castellanos has been steadier. Vmar's been a disaster. You know, you got the guys yelling at the media. It's just been a complete and utter disaster. And I don't want to wait till September 30th to pull the damn plug. Pull the plug. The season's done.
I can tell you how long we're going to have to put up with this. It's 33 games more.
I don't want to put 33 more. I can barely sit through 4 innings. I mean, you got the Lions and the Tigers at the casino watching them, and everyone's like, oh, screw the Lions. Or they said, oh, screw the Tigers. Put the Lions game on. They had 4 TVs, two of them dedicated to the Tigers. Why? They're horrible to watch. And
the entire team is checked out, man.
Why? That's horrible.
I understand, you're upset. I've been accepted of the fact that this season was over weeks ago for me. I said that they were going to, at best, they're an average team, and that's what they are. They can't figure out hitting. They have all the hitting talent in the world, but they can't figure it out. They don't have pitching. Justin Verlander has been a great story this past 2 months, but you can't win with just one pitcher. It's over.
Okay, there's one thing. Okay, Jason, there's one thing. Yes, we know the season's over. It's done. But for Gose to check out and make a mistake like that, what are they focused on? What are they doing out there? I don't understand. There's no communication going on. The question then you start asking is, how worse can it get? Are you going to have guys, totally check out and not play? Look what's happened now. Today's game on Sunday, Vmar, because of his crappy numbers since the All-Star game, batting 192 since the All-Star break, is being moved down.
As he should have, finally.
What took so long? You got radio hosts, you got bloggers, everyone's like, you got haters out there who are like, why don't you change the lineup around? What takes so long? It's like, what do? They just sit around and wait for like 4 or 5? What do they need? Like the approval of like 4 bloggers before they make a move? You can't have an organization where everyone knows your moves that you should make ahead of you, and then you make them. It's ridiculous, and really, it's angering. It's frustrating because dead last. I didn't even bring that up. We're sitting here, and it's what, August 30th? We're freaking dead last in the American League Central. And there's topics on the radio going, are the Tigers going to finish dead last in the Central? That's bogus.
As fans, yeah, you want to see your manager get angry at an awful play like that with Gose. But what did it really do? I mean, how much of this is Ausmus has checked out too? He knows, he sees the writing on the wall. Hey, what is he just trying to preserve his relationship with players? Because if he's going out there, he's calling out players, does that look bad on him in the future? That players see that when he's on a bad team, that he's throwing his other people under the bus? I think he's just gone into the scripted answers. He's given stuff happens, it's baseball. If you can figure out a way to do this, let me know. You're getting the vanilla answers. It's like preseason football for Brad Ausmus right now.
Okay, you've told me to watch several YouTube videos, and I'm going to tell you one. Jim Leland, superstar player. You look up Jim Leland rants on Bobby Bonilla. It's a great YouTube video, great clip. You got Bobby Bonilla spouting off, and Jim Leland basically squashes it right then and there and goes, don't talk to me like that. That's a bunch of beep, 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 beep. It's a great, at least 5-6 minute video where Jim Leland just stands right up to Bobby Bonilla and just tells him, hey, cut the shit. And let's get back to business. So he commands right away. He establishes himself as a no-nonsense guy. I don't care if you're making $200 million a year. I don't care if your salary's 10 times what I make. You need to do what's right. And what was the basis of Jim Leland's 2006 rant that took the Tigers off? He was like, you know what? I can't guarantee you guys every year I can't guarantee you guys every day we're going to win. I can't guarantee that. But you damn for sure know every single day we're going to play to our fullest ability. And it was a getaway game, I think, versus Oakland, and they mailed it in. They didn't show up. And he came right out there and said, my team didn't show up. It's my fault. That's bogus, and that's happened a lot here. That's going to stop. Win or lose, that stuff's going to happen. But the effort, I didn't see no effort in that 15-1 loss, and I didn't see Brad Ausmus making any kind of statement, to kind of push things along. The
Brad
team,
Ausmus is nowhere near the coach of Jim Leland.
But okay, maybe it's not going to work out here. But you still got to build, your kind of reputation. And right now, my perception is just sitting here that he's got a reputation as being a pushover, a guy that just lets things happen, lets things slide.
Yeah, and I think it'll probably affect his getting a job. He might get one in San Diego because they already love Brad Ausmus. But you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get another, the head honcho job anywhere else for years to come. I think he's probably going to end up as a bench coach or some sort of catching coach on another team, but you're not going to see him being the main guy for a while.
Yes, we understand they need at least 2 to 3 more starters. They need at least 2 to 3 more arms in the bullpen. And the guys that he's calling up there, aren't really going to be the guys that you're going to be confident in to really help the team. But it's just one of those things where you want to see the team show effort. You want to see the team bring it game in and game out. You're not going to win every game, obviously. I don't even care about their record anymore. It's abysmal. But to be in last place with the talent that they have is not appropriate. And it is embarrassing. It's frustrating. And the solace is that you got pieces. You see that, okay, potentially, if they pan out, Fulmer, Boyd, Norris have a chance in the next couple years to come up here and do some things. So it's not like right now everything is, DEFCON 5, that we're not going to make the playoffs for the next 5 years. No, I believe that with some retooling, with some reshaping, with a new manager, then potentially they can do some things that are effective. But, Avila said it. They're not great on analyzing sabermetrics. Brad Ausmus was touted as being a guy that knew the numbers, but consistently when you look at his decision-making, it's not good. He's not doing things that the statistics say are going to help you. So all that recipe leads to what we've been seeing, and it's going to get worse. You got a 3-game set versus Kansas City on the road. Good Lord, man, we're going to get bombed.
Here's something I still find interesting about the Tigers, though. So we're 60-69 right now. We're dead last in the Central. We are the second worst team in the entire American League. After all that, we're still only 7.5 games out of the wild card.
Yeah, okay.
And it's crazy to think that it's not going to happen.
All right, humor me. Riddle me this. Sunday today, or as we're recording this, we play Toronto. Tomorrow's an off day. Any chance at all, they have a press conference tomorrow if they get devastated again today and Brad Ausmus gets fired ahead of the September call-ups?
They should. They really should. And, Matt Derry has been calling it for the past 2 weeks at least. He said that fire Brad Ausmus, give Omar Vizquel a chance. You're going to have 32 more games to see what you got. Omar Vizquel may not be the answer for next year, but at least you're kicking the tires. And I think it would be a good sign for Avila because you see that he's actually going to be able to judge the people that he's got. I think he knows what he's got in Brad Ausmus now, and I think they're pretty sour on what he's bringing to the table. See what Omar Vizquel has, and maybe if we see that they still are struggling, but Vizquel has a little bit more fire than Brad Ausmus, maybe he gives them a shot next year.
All right. That's enough anger and rant for the Tigers. I said
you got so angry.
Listen, I said I was going to check out on the Doc and Jock podcast. I can't. The Tigers are on. I care about them. I want them to win, and I couldn't do it.
I might have to take you in the other room and have you lay down on the couch.
I will,
and I'll do a Doc section with you.
Yeah, I can't do it. I try to say I check out, but then the game turns on. The radio coverage is there. They're talked about on shows from time to time. So I can't. I try to say it, but I can't do it. All right, let's take a quick break. Calm down. Do some business, and then come back and quickly, to wrap up the podcast, talk about the week that will be. College football is here, and the Savior will finally get a chance to preach on.
Jesus in khakis.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast.com. Stay with us. All right, out there, go visit fanaticu.com, Detroit Sports official outfitter and the official outfitter of the Detroit Sports Podcast. If you shop online at fanaticu.com and use the promo code, Jason, DSP, then you can save 15% off your entire order. Anything at all that's available on the shop at Fanaticu, you can pick up and save 15% off. Recently, they sold a great number of Old English D hats with the Block M, and I've gotten word that pretty soon it's coming. The Old English D hat with the Spartan logo, baby, it's going to be on there. The Block S. So I can't wait for that to be in the store. Look for it at fanaticu.com. They got great selection of all things to get you ready for the college football season, to get you ready for the NFL. Check them out, fanaticu.com, and don't pay full price. Use promo code DSP. Save 15% off your entire order. And now back to Jarvi the King and the Doc on the Motor City Sports Rant. thanks everyone who has been downloading this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic,
Stitcher. How to do that for Vinny.
the Detroit Sports Nation website. They've been gracious enough to host all the podcasts that we throw up there. So we want to thank everybody. With your continued support, we can continue to provide all these great podcasts. Look, on a Sunday afternoon, my boy Jason and I were just ranting and raving about the teams that we love, and it's only because you guys have been downloading it all across the country, overseas, and we can't thank you enough. We always want to say thanks for the support. Thank you for following and watching on Periscope. I love it. It gives me a chance to kind of, show my bald head. The best part was
they have a perfect view.
They got a perfect view, too. The first time I Periscoped, and there's a reason why. The guys that are always behind the mic are not as comfortable, but Adam was like, what's good for the goose? And so within like 6 minutes, I'm like, hey, we're going to talk about this and talk about that. 3 messages come across. Where's his hairline? And I thought, like, man, how do I feel about like the hate? And I'm like, you know what? When I interviewed Dan Miller on the One-on-One podcast, he basically said it. If you're not prepared for a little bit of hate, then you shouldn't be doing this. And it was kind of funny, and I'm able to kind of laugh at myself, but it was interesting to do this and to run it up there. But I've been comfortable. It's fun. And like I said, we turn on the mics and we can rant and rave anytime we want. But now, all the hype, even today on the Sunday paper, can't even throw down a freaking $1.50 without seeing some caricature of Jim Harbaugh. I mean, these artists have got to be great. They're like, oh, we got a new guy we can draw in all different distorted ways on either ESPN the magazine, on the Detroit News Free Press Sunday magazine, online, DetroitNews.com, Freep.com. There's all these cartoon figures of Jim Harbaugh.
Little Jimmy Harbaugh.
And basically, Fox Sports 1 is going to be the Jim Harbaugh channel on Thursday. You're going to see him probably before the game, during the game. They're going to mic up every part of his body.
Oh, I'm so excited for the khaki cam.
The khaki cam. Woohoo! The Love Fest is now coming to a tipping point this week. We're now going to get a chance to see what his football team has looked like. And I haven't peeked in at Michigan yet because I've been peeking in at the Spartans, but he hasn't named a quarterback yet, has he? Nothing yet?
Nope. Monday is supposed to be when
So today, when this podcast comes out on Monday.
Yeah. The depth chart is supposed to be out.
Yeah.
But I bet you're going to see a combination of Rudock and Shane Morris. Yeah. I think Rudock probably gets the start.
I agree 100%. That's the safe play. That's the right move. That's a guy that can potentially get right away. The Jim Harbaugh stuff is coming on Periscope. Look at this. Jim Harbaugh equals Jesus Christ Jr.
Clearly, yes.
Oh, my goodness. It won't stop. We can't escape it. It won't stop.
The Father, Son, and the Jim Harbaugh.
But the good thing is, though, and like I've told Adam, I believe everyone is kind of tapering their expectations. They're being realistic. But some people are still...
No, not everybody.
No, some people still think 9 wins for this team. I don't see it. I don't see 9 wins. I mean, it's going to take wins versus Utah, BYU, and maybe 1 win versus the big 2 opponents. But expectations should be around 7 to 8 wins logistically. And if it's a bad season, then you're looking at 5 to 6. But the first season for Jim Harbaugh, you're going to look to see what's this guy bring to the table. We all know he's a good coach, strong motivator, but what's he going to do with the talent that has been left behind? And it's not... the talent right now at Michigan needs to be upgraded at several positions. But the game versus Utah, I'm starting to look at it. Utah has lost some guys to graduation. Some key situations are a little bit in Michigan's favor. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan went to Utah and won. But at the same time, my prediction is going to be a close game, lost like 30-24.
Yeah, I definitely see Utah coming out. There's been a bunch of press calling that the Utah game is a cupcake game for the Wolverines. I think they're coming out. This is a team that beat Michigan last year. I really think I would love to see, especially as a Sparty guy, I'd love to see them just come out and dominate the Wolverines. I think will end up being a little bit more closer. I think Utah is going to win. But like you said, I think Jim Harbaugh could luck into a win here. Ooh. I think he could go in. And it won't be pretty, but I'd guess like they'd have like 50 rushing attempts and just kind of it's a war of attrition.
Real quickly, does Jim Harbaugh get to Bo Schembechler status in Michigan? You think he's going to have the success where he's like revered? You remember Bo was successful. Bo built a program. Bo built the Michigan program, but never won a national title. But he's revered.
No, I don't think he's going to be here long enough to be the status of Bo Schembechler. And I would even go so far to say I don't think he wins the Big Ten title ever.
And so Jason and I are Sparties. So for all you Periscopers, I started the Jim Harbaugh to the Lions movement.
No, and I hate you for that.
I'm going to continue that. I put it now on video. Jim Harbaugh, if he has success, maybe should be scooped up by the Detroit Lions, get us back to the promised land. Or, you know what? Have our cake and eat it too. Win a national title quickly and then go right to the Lions. So that way the Spartans can continue their success.
You are just the worst, John.
Then, okay, we get to watch the Michigan game is going to take place 8:30, Fox Sports 1. I know it's a tough network to watch, but they're growing. Fox Sports 1 is a growing network. They are going to do some things to hype up Michigan the first game. No, the D-line apparel. We are not slappies like Valenti. We are objective fans of the Spartans. I am. But we have guys here on the network that love Michigan, and we have realistic expectations for them. If you look at the schedule, D-line apparel, it's a tough schedule. You can't come out there and look at that schedule that they have and say they're going to have 9 to 10 wins. Come on now.
Don't you talk about the best D-line apparel?
And the D-line apparel, you got to realize too. On our college football show that Doc and Jock and I did, I said Michigan State's not going to win the national title. They're not going to get in the playoff. I got them going 10-2. So to transition to the Spartans, Connor Cook was not named a captain. It was kind of interesting. I don't think it's a mark on him. It just goes to show that the captains that were picked were really widely regarded as being leaders. So I don't take too much stock into saying that Connor Cook's not a leader or that it's a big deal. I don't think that at all. I think Connor Cook, silent leader, is going to have a great year. And it all kicks off for our Sparties Friday, 7 p.m. on ESPNU. On the road versus Western. This is going to be one of those games that's going to be like in the 50s. 53-14. Spartans are going to take it down. Then we're going to get to show off every aspect of the Spartans team, the offense, defense, special teams. It's going to be a cupcake game.
This is a game where I don't want them to take it too lightly, because this is the game. This is a game in the past where we'd be like, oh, we're gonna beat them, and then they come in and scare us. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the first half that we're only up by like a touchdown or maybe 10 points, and then the second half we just kind of we turn on the Jets, we blow them out of the water. Michigan State definitely gonna win this game, but I still want to see what's their offense gonna be like. There's no Jeremy Langford. There's no Tony Lippett. There's all new weapons. I mean, who's going to be the star? I think that's what you want to see from this game, because they're going to have to figure it out with Oregon coming up in week 2.
Yeah. So I had them going 10-2. I have them losing to Oregon and Ohio State. I have those 2 losses. Everything else should be okay for us. Now, Adam was like, you had them having 3 tough games. Who was the third? I don't think that it's going to be a cupcake to go into Nebraska and dominate there. They're a tough team, so that's a tough game too. But should they win potentially versus Oregon, then all bets are off, and we can maybe start being slappies like, whoa, can we? It's a home game, so that's a plus. It's a primetime game. Everyone's going to get a chance to see it. Connor Cook is going to be reveling at the chance to earn his first round draft pick status. A lot of people are talking that Connor could be a top 5 pick overall.
Yeah, I think he's really, he wants revenge for that Oregon game that they lost last year. Now,
wait.
Before we end, I want to do a little impromptu session of length or girth.
Let's do it. All right, go for it. You got some questions?
I do. I have 3 questions.
All right.
Question 1, on the Lions, Haloti Ngata. He hasn't seen it down. He hasn't practiced. Length or girth, when are we going to see him?
I think the injury is going to be length. I mean, Jim Caldwell first kind of came out when the injury happened, and he said, he's going to be back by the first game. Yeah, don't worry about it. Then, if you read between the lines, and the talk that he said is, well, potentially he might not be available for that first game. By week 4, I'm certain he'll be in the lineup, but he just might not be there the first couple games. So the injury is going to linger a little bit longer, and they might hold him out to get him 100% healthy, because we really need him second half of the year, playoff run stretch. So they're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize a chance to get back on the field. Length.
Well, Jarvi the King has woken up, and your optimistic Lions fan is here. Haloti Ngata, it's going to be girth. I think, maybe week 1, week 2, it takes him a second to get back into the groove. But he's just a big boy. He's going to go in there. He's going to eat up blocks. And I think what we saw in this Jacksonville game with them being able to rush up the middle. I think he's going to instantly shore that up. So within the first 3 weeks, Haloti Ngata, he's going to be back. He's going to be everything that we hoped, and it's going to be butter all day long.
Butter.
Question number 2 on length or girth. U of M. When are they going to get their first loss? Length or girth?
When are they going to get their first loss? Right away, Girth. Thursday, they're going to lose. They're going to go to Utah, and Utah's super tough at home. They came into Ann Arbor last year, and it was a rainy day, and they had success versus Michigan, and, continued to kind of start the path for Brady Hoke to be let go of his job. At home, season opener, they're going to be filled with emotion, and I just think that that it's going to be a little bit too much for the University of Michigan to handle. Now, I don't see a blowout. Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. He'll get this team that he's got motivated. They just don't. I think they're undersized, under-talented, and Utah will probably win 30-24 in that range.
I will also go girth. They're going to lose to Utah. Utah's going to come in, and it may be my Sparty blood running through me. I think Utah is just going to lay the smack down, to coin a wrestling phrase, which I know that I'm not very much up on, but I love The Rock. The Utes are going to just destroy the Wolverines. So, Girth, they're going to have their loss. Question number 3, pretty much the same as the second question. The Michigan State Spartans, when are they going to get their first loss? Length or girth?
Oh, Jason, you put me right on the spot. I have them losing to Oregon in a tough game, but, I'm going to channel my fandom. I'm going to put it out there that it's going to... I really feel like it's tough because in national games, the defense sometimes has a tough time. We got a new defensive coordinating system with the two guys, but I'm going to channel the fandom. I'm going to cheer my little heart out. I'm going to hope that they win versus Oregon, and the first loss comes to Ohio State. So I'm going to say length, but potentially, I'm going to waffle a little bit. But my intelligent brain thinks they're going to lose to Oregon, but my Sparty heart for the answer for the podcast is going to say length. We're gonna have the best game of the year, 2 undefeated teams, State versus Ohio State.
So your brain says girth, your heart says length. My brain and my heart say length. They aren't going to get their first win against Oregon. It's gonna
It's gonna
be a little while until they get their first loss. I think Oregon, I'm not so high on them. Vernon Adams, he's going to be their starter. I don't think he hasn't been with the team for too long. I think it's going to take him some time to really adjust to that system. And I don't know what that guy actually is. Marcus Mariota, we knew that he was a Heisman candidate. We knew that he was going to be good. I think Michigan State can easily win this game. It's at home. Why not?
Why not us?
So I go, it's going to be length for Michigan State.
Okay, what's the percentage chance in your Sparty heart and my Sparty heart that you think they make the Final Four? 40%, 30%, maybe 20 to 30%?
In my Sparty, I'd go 50-50.
50%? Oh, yes, I like that.
I think it really teeters. I think they're going to be Oregon. It's all going to come down to Ohio State.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a close game. So that's why I would say that it's completely 50-50. It all depends on that game. If they beat Ohio State, they're probably going to go on, win the Big Ten championship. It's not a guarantee, but you want to hope that if they can beat Ohio State, they can pick it up, win the Big Ten championship, and then you're in the Final Four.
Ooh, I can't wait. Football starting. We start off with college football. Jason and I, we hope that Michigan stumbles and they play terrible, but at the same time, we do need them to be a little bit respectable in that it'll help our
we don't.
Ranking a little bit.
They can lose all of their games, and I would love every second of it.
The Jim Harbaugh Love Fest will continue, at least for a couple more weeks, for sure. Even if they lose, it'll be like, he coached great, but the players were terrible. He'll find a way.
They'll all say that, it was Brady Hoke's kids.
It was Brady Hoke's kids. What are you going to do? Man, that was a good hour, man. We filled an hour. We were on camera for the entire show. The first one we ever did with our selfie stick. It didn't see D-Line Apparel. You asked, and I obliged. We got a little stick there to allow us to broadcast the entire podcast, and we can listen to it all day, Sunday, because there's not too much goings on besides the Tigers. Ugh. That was a good podcast, bro.
That was good. It was definitely flew by. I appreciate you driving the show, man.
No problem. You do a lot. And so if you're out there in Periscope, Royal Oak Arts, Beats, and Eats Festival. Next Sunday, 11 o'clock, this man right here will be broadcasting live on the FM dial with Dennis Farrell and Theo Gridon Sprite, breaking down everything, the Fantasy Sideline Football Show, every Sunday morning. It's a good show. I listen every morning. I'm there. I'm listening. It's a great show, and it's very entertaining, and I get a chance to bounce ideas off of what's going on in our league with Jason, and he definitely answered my question this morning. For the King, Jason Jarvi, I'm the Doc, John McAroon. It's been the Motor City Sports Rant. Thanks for downloading. Tell everybody you know. Bye-bye.
See ya. I graduated Specs Howard back in January. This is all new to me, man.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.
Ah!